So this week, this must be how footballers feel when they're actually playing to a non-audience. It's most peculiar.
Would you like a bit of audience participation? Shall I heckle you?
Yes, please. So today we're going to talk about beetroot, chard and lettuce, and we're going to demonstrate to you how to sow the seeds, because as you know, in the Growing Academy we do everything that is time led. We don't jump ahead. So the first thing we're going to do are beetroot. I don't know if I've ever said I love beetroot. Do you love beetroot?
I love beetroot. It's one of my favourites.
You can put different voices on if you want as well. Right then, beetroot, one of my favourite. I love it any which way that comes. There's loads of different varieties that you can actually buy out there, but today we're going to talk about this one, which was free in the Kitchen Garden magazine, and it's bolt hardy. It's a round beetroot that most people will be familiar with, and it's probably one of the most popular ones. Bolt hardy means that it isn't going to bolt. It isn't going to go straight to seed if you put it out at the wrong time. It's one of your favourites, isn't it, Julie?
I love bolt hardy. I also like crimson red.
Crimson red?
Yeah.
I go instead, you see, for the long cylindrical.
Well,
Now,
yeah, you
there's a
would.
surprise. But that one for me, this year I'm going to do Alto, but you can do any that are out there, and at the moment there's some real bargains to be had with seeds, but none bigger bargain than the ones that you get with Kitchen Garden magazine.
Yeah, because they're free really, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. Now then, go back to what we said before, which is flick the seed packet. Give it a good flick, and that way all the seeds will drop down to the bottom. That's important in this area. So I can feel now all the seeds have dropped down to the bottom. And what I'm going to do is just get a seed tray, just a small seed tray, any which way. And the reason that I'm doing it in seed trays is because here in our site we get loads of mice and creatures that eat our seeds. So what we're going to do is we'll end up planting little plants. But I've got multi-purpose compost here. I haven't put any vermiculite in at all. I'm leaving that as is.
Why is that?
Because the seeds actually don't need any heat or drainage with this one. They're quite a hardy variety, as we've said before. So all I'm going to do is pat that down. So I've made it nice and firm, and I've taken it almost up to. Don't take it to the top, because if you do that, when you water, all the seeds and all the soil will go over the top and you'll lose everything. So instead, take it to about half an inch, quarter of an inch to the top, and then literally holes underneath, so plenty of drainage there. Put it on the floor or over the kitchen sink and just wet it so that the soil all the way down will be wet through. Now then, with good drainage, that should seep all the way through and come out the bottom. And for the first time in a long time, that's what I'm after.
A wet bottom.
Right then, put it back on your table. And with the seeds that you've already flicked down to the bottom of the seed, open the packet. Put the seeds on your hands so that you can control the amount of seeds that you're letting loose onto your soil. And you'll see these are clusters actually. It's not one little seed, it's a clump of beetroot here. So what I'm going to do now is meticulously pop them along here so there's plenty of room for them to grow. And they're going to be nice and snug, but not overcrowded, because I'm going to prick each one of these out. So
Yeah, we do this differently, don't we?
we do. So that's mine, and that's the way I do it. And I'm just going to put a little sprinkling, literally, of compost across the top to cover them and keep them warm. Nothing more. I'm not going to wet it again. Just going to leave it as long as all the seeds have been nicely covered. And the most important thing, class, I'm expecting you to say, don't forget the label and today's date. Put that in, pack that away, that can sit in here. Now, Julia, you do yours completely
I
differently.
do. Do you want me to demonstrate, or are you
Yes,
going
and
to
I'll take
swap?
over. Yes.
Okay. There you
We're
go.
like a fine oil machine.
Oh gosh. Right. So Elaine uses the trays tray method. What I do, I use cells. As Elaine said, some sites you could probably get away with actually sowing directly into the ground, but because we have such a problem with mice and rats and things down here, what I tend to do is sow it in a cell tray. So I'm going to push them right to the top, level that off a little bit.
And that's compost that's been warming up in the polytunnel.
It is, yep. And now what I'm going to do, just like you, I'm going to water it down. I haven't made it level with the top, because what's going to happen is once I've watered it, it will actually soak it down a little bit. And again, with the drainage, it will drop from the fluffiness to a better base. Now, what I do is I actually grow my beetroot in clusters. And the reason I do this, I've found it's very successful, and actually it seems to hold the moisture, so there's less watering to be done throughout the season with them. And what I tend to do is I sow about 4 or 5 seeds in each cell compartment, and then when these come up, what happens is I just leave them to carry on growing. And once they get to about a decent size, about an inch tall, then I will actually plant them in their entirety in the cell into the ground. And what will happen is, as they actually grow, what will happen is one of the beetroots will actually become dominant, and that will grow bigger. When that's got to the size that I actually want to use, all I'm going to do is twist it and gently pull it, and that will leave the remaining beetroot intact, and they can then fight for the rest of the space, and they then become more dominant. And what we've got is a nice cluster that actually will retain the moisture a little bit, and it also takes up less space than doing it in a line as Elaine likes to do it.
But we like lines, Julia, it's just how it is.
No, I like to be wonky and random, Elaine. Wonky and
So
random.
what we'll do is we'll show people when we get that stage, obviously, how to do that on their plot.
Absolutely.
But this is just about, at the moment, how to sow the seed. Now, I've covered my seeds up, Julia.
Yep.
You've not covered yours up?
No, I'm going to. I'll carry on doing the rest of the seeds off camera,
okay,
because this is a bit odd for us. And so what I will do, just like you, is I'll cover them with a fine sprinkling of compost. And it's important to remember, when you're actually planting seeds, usually when you're putting some compost or vermiculite on the top, you're wanting to go about twice the depth of the seed that you've got. So the smaller the seed, the smaller the amount of compost on the top. And obviously the bigger seeds, like the broad beans and the runner beans, you actually want twice the depth, so a good depth of compost on the top or soil. So right, I shall hand back to my colleague Elaine, who's obviously the professional at this. And I'll continue with my non-professional filming. There we go.
So that's the beetroot done, and now what we're going to do, as it says on here, is chard. Now, chard is a two-way veg, and not only do you get the leaf that you can use as a spinach, but I find it a more tasty approach to vegetables actually than spinach.
Yeah.
I like it very much, and particularly if you're doing pakoras and the like.
It doesn't cook down in the same way spinach does. It
No,
doesn't.
it's like a sort of a strong green cabbage, I would say.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you take out the centre in itself can be used as another, like a white hard cabbage, that kind of thing. And what I'm going to do is yet again use the free ones that we've been given by Kitchen Garden, and this one is Swiss Charge, which is called Fork Hawk.
Did you pick that one for that reason?
Ford Hawk Giant. It's got to be a giant because I'm doing it, obviously. You can do the little one if you like.
I will, yeah.
So again, don't forget to open your seeds from the bottom of the packet here, and you'll find inside the packet. Now, what did I say a minute ago? Flick it so that all the seeds pop down to the bottom. Okay, and open very carefully. I'll put that on one side, And what we're going to do this time is we're going to sow 5 seeds into just a very small pot that we've had given to us. We have loads of pots given to us, which we're very grateful for.
Why is that, Elaine? Why are we only doing so few?
Because rather than use Martin's on plot 1 where he did a whole row of chard, we're just going to put 2 or 3 on each of our plots. You don't need any more than that.
Martin,
it will
no.
keep you going all the way through. Rather than a whole row, Martin, we don't need them. So all I've done is, again, I've taken the compost all the way to the rim there, and now just carefully into your hand, not straight into the pot, because that way you can see the seeds rather than pouring them on and trying to pick them out of your compost.
The seeds
Believe
are
me,
almost identical, aren't they,
They
to
are.
the beetroot seeds?
and if you're getting old like me, you can hardly see what you're doing. So all I do is put 5 in there, and 5 little plants will pop up. And again, just hands, these are the best tools that God gave us. So just sprinkle over the top like so, and then I'm going to put it into a seed tray like this one here, and I'm going to put the water at the bottom so that the compost can soak it up from the bottom. Leave it like so. Whoops! There we go. And I should probably do quite a few, because obviously people up here at the allotments do like to use them. So that's chard, and they grow beautiful. Even if you don't want to eat chard, let me recommend them for aesthetics. Or anaesthetics. I'm not really sure that's gin. Righty-ho.
Or you could actually use it as toilet paper if you wanted to.
In this current climate, it might be what we need. So the next thing is lettuce. These are little gem cars. Now, lettuce are some of the easiest things to grow when you know how. And again, for the sake of being boring, take the packet, open it from the bottom, take the packet out, and I can hear you all saying it now.
Flick it.
So the seeds drop down to the bottom. Take the top off, and then we're ready to use them. Now there's an abundance, there's hundreds and hundreds of seeds in there. But all I'm going to do is take a seed tray, again make sure it's the one that's got holes in the bottom, fill it up with multi-purpose compost like so. And again, this is only going to take you a few minutes to do, and you'll end up with that many lettuce, there we go, that you can give them to different people, either when they've grown or as seedlings to your friends that you've just made friends with on the plot. Now what I've done here is I've probably left 1/2 inch rim, but plenty of root there. Okay, and again put it on the floor and sprinkle lightly with water to make sure that it's damped well and truly. Let it come through. Happy because I've got a wet bottom.
Have you? I do apologise.
Moving that to one side. And again, put the seeds into the palm of your hand, and you'll see how tiny these seeds are.
Yeah.
But you can see them because they're a different colour. So all I'm going to do is pinch and sprinkle. Sprinkle them across and wait for all the gaps to be filled. It's really hard to do, but I'm doing them in a bit of a rush. You've got more time than me, so take your time with these. Each one, don't forget, is going to be a lettuce. Put those on there. Put the spares back in the packet so we can do some more later off screen. And again, all I'm going to do, I'm covering.
Are you not using the vermiculite?
Oh yeah, go on then, we'll use some vermiculite. Right, cover with vermiculite. Vermiculite is really good for drainage. It'll keep everywhere warm, but I'm also going to use a plastic bag, a see-through plastic bag as well, to keep the moisture in until the seeds get germinating. And we did that last week in the academy. And again, there's no need to wet it. Now as days go by, if you do think that that needs a damp, this is your best friend at the moment. Just spray and spray it like so, just to keep it damp on the top. But it doesn't need wetting through.
Yeah.
And you can see when it's damp because it changes colour.
I think
So-
it's better to use the vermiculite on the
On the
lettuce
lettuce.
seed because they're so small, and particularly the little gem I found very difficult to actually get them germinated. They seem to take twice as long as, say, the Lollo Rosso. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to use the vermiculite on those.
Okay, and again, going back to it, Julia, you've mentioned Lollo Rosso. There's loads and loads of different varieties of lettuce that are on the market out there. But if you can't be bothered and you're bored stiff with what we're saying, it doesn't matter, because in a minute you can come and get these from us in the Growing Academy when they've popped up. That's it. Normally we'd finish for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and homemade cake.
We will,
It's
shall
only
we?
me and you.
Well, we're going to get very fat, aren't we, while this is going on?
I think the word is fat too, actually. See you next week. Thanks,
Okay,
Julia.
bye.